I'm Shauntel Leeson, and welcome to Money Talk Viewpoint. We are the online talk show and podcast for financial professionals who specialize in working with high net worth, ultra high net worth, family-owned businesses and family offices. We have a panel discussion. This is our first of our panel discussion series. We'd like for you to consider joining us in the future, and we'll put out a message on LinkedIn and Facebook if you're interested in our discussion topics and to be able to join us. So I'm going to kick it in gear. Introduce yourselves one by one, starting with you, Mary. And introduce yourself and tell them what you do.
I'm Elaine Petrucci, and I work with family caregivers, coaches, and holistic practitioners in terms of reducing their stress, overwhelm, and burnout using mind-body programs and hypnosis training.
Katie?
I'm Katie Pfisterer. So we have our own insurance company, Pfisterer Retirement Insurance. So we do health and life insurance for different ages, but our primary focus is on Medicare. And so we also provide additional plans, long-term care plans, and other things for the age group as well.
And Katie is a partner that will come on in a few minutes. He's coming on, right?
Yes.
Okay. And the next person is actually my co-host. This is Dennis Williams. Dennis, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks much. And my background's primarily been in healthcare and finance, and recently launched CashMap Consulting, which is focused on strengthening family finances, whether it be boosting credit score and eliminating debt or paying less interest on what you end up paying, and just bringing clarity to your finances. And just a pleasure to be here.
You know, and I want to ask something else what Dennis does. For those of you who are small business owners, what Dennis does with the cash map, if I'm correct, it helps to track cash flow. Am I on target with that one? It
does assist in bringing clarity to kind of cash flow, as well as providing some very simple cash flow strategies that kind of move people forward to their profit targets. I'm going to shift views, and you're going to just see individual views one at a time. I'm going to start with Mary, because Mary's our star for today's show, because Mary specializes in caregiving. This is a very, very difficult phase of life. It's not the sexy phase of life, but it happens to a lot of families. And it puts a lot of families in a turmoil, which is why we have Dennis here to talk about cash flow, because it puts their bank accounts in turmoil. But the emotional effect of when someone goes through that phase of life where they can no longer care for themselves, whether it's through physical illness or mental, emotional illness, can be damaging and devastating to a family. So I'm going to start with Mary. Mary, I'll let you kick this off, and let's start with you, because we talked about caregiving and communication. Start where you want to start, Mary. It's your floor.
Thank you, Shauntel. Communication is just really important when caregiving, because you have to really take in someone else's perspective and know how your loved one is really communicating with you, so that there's less chance of miscommunication, and it really promotes stronger relationships when you can communicate much better. Just to give you some idea of the ramifications, I guess, if you like, of caregiving, are that about 35% of caregivers report that their health is fair to poor. 40 to 70% of them have clinically symptoms of depression, and 30% of caregivers will die before the one that they're caring for. So communication is really important, and finding like the resources that they need to help them in their caregiving journey.
Thank you. Listen, I want to introduce one other person. He was hiding in the background. Jonathan, introduce yourself to the group. We've all done our own introductions, and tell them who you are and what you do.
Well, hi, and thank you. And I was hiding. You found me. Well, I'm John Pfisterer. I'm with the Pfisterer Retirement and Insurance, and my wife over there that you saw Well, we're a family practice, and we've been doing Medicare, Social Security, and retirement assistance for free for families and individuals for the last 6-7 years out of the Chicagoland area.
So I'm going to open the floor up to open discussion. Who wants to step in first and pick up where Mary left off? We had talked about communication in the past. Whatever subject you want to talk to, this is open to the audience. We're inviting the audience in the future to engage in this conversation. It's still brand new for us. Wherever you want to go, whoever wants to step in next. Go ahead. Jonathan, you want to step in and talk about what you guys do with
I mean, I thought I saw Dennis's mouth start moving. I don't want to.
Yeah, I was just going to add this issue of communication. It impacts every single component of the healthcare continuum. It is just, I've just seen it so many times as relates to a hesitance of people even wanting to talk about their finances, and what it in turn does when that communication doesn't happen. I would also call it just compassionate. I mean, self-care is also effective communication as well. It encourages it for the simple reason that if you're not taking care of yourself and you're not, and Mary's talked about this before, establish clear boundaries. So you're just not on the receiving end of not taking care of yourself, then that also contributes, if that's not there, to bad outcomes.
You know, I want to ask a question about that, because when people go through that phase of life, they sometimes, if they don't have a process set in order, it will go through the bank account pretty quickly, won't it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about that aspect of it, or if that's where you want to start, because this is where Jonathan and Katie come in to talk about the types of coverages that a person could put in place. When should they be looking at this, and how does it protect them? Jonathan and Katie?
So it's something that we definitely need to hit on earlier in life, because of your health, and you want to make sure that you're actually going to qualify. So there's different options out there. There are long-term care plans. They're not quite as big as they used to be because there's not as many companies involved in that. So there's not as many options in that field, but they've come up with some new plans too. And so some people are even using life insurance now to actually cover those costs later on in life. But again, that's something that you have to build up over time. So it's different than long-term care. Some people have a confusion between long-term care, like universal or whole life. And so long-term care is only going to be for a certain period of time. And that's not long-term, my mistake, term insurance. And so with that, it's going to basically be for a certain period of time, and it's you use it or lose it. And so sometimes people think they have coverage just based on having that, but that's in case of like a death. That's not really covering any care needs that you may have. So it's something you want to start talking about early on, even for yourself to consider. It's very easy to procrastinate and put it off. Like you said, it's not a sexy phase of life. People don't want to think about it, talk about it. But we're all going to need some form of care, whether it's home health care or we're going to need assistance in a facility, whatever it might be.
You know, one thing that Dennis touched on too is the fear of, so, you know, we're all here to help in one way, shape, or form, right? So a family, friend, clients, and if they don't share the whole picture with us, communicate their financial situation, that's going to help us steer them into different circumstances that's best for them. Whether they're rich and young or poor and old, whatever that is, there's different options and opportunities for each one of them to get something, some sort of coverage or assistance through the county or the state or what have you. Different. So, you know, the tackle or the tap on top of what Katie said and Dennis is just, it's all really intricate and important.
Well, let's talk about the rich and old. You said rich and young. How about the rich and old? There are wealthy people in their older years. How does it impact them?
Well, you know, there's an old adage where, you know, how the rich stay rich, they don't spend their money, right? And so it's really quick in these facilities. And if you have to go into memory care, or if you're having people around the clock hired at their home, $1 million or $2 million, you can blow through that within a handful of years. And so is that really a lot of money? I mean, it is to most people, but at the same time, what do you do after that?
That leaves the people at home with a lot less in their bank account. Mary, I want you to go in and tell us more about what your experiences have been. And you have I want to say that Mary had the Caregiver Academy and the Caregiver community. Mary, share with the group here about the Caregiver Academy, how you've helped people, and the caregiver community.
Thank you for asking. I help caregivers in terms of really addressing like any trauma that they may be experiencing. So looking at any limiting beliefs, strategies that they're using that aren't really helping them at this point in terms of caregiving for someone, looking at their values and looking at just how they really communicate and with someone else and how I can help them through that process so that they can overcome their trauma, so that they can be the best person that they can be, so that they can be the best person in terms of caregiving for someone else, because they'll step back and look at the person in a that they're caring for in a totally different way. So using mind body programs and assessments and hypnosis can help them with challenging situations so that they can be more present with the person that they're caring for and be able to provide really deal with any challenging situations that arise, and will help them decrease the negative behaviors of the person that they're caring for in terms of understanding how they're communicating with the person that they're caring for, and understanding how the person that they're caring for is communicating with them either verbally or non-verbally.
You know,